Hi there, students. Warp. Warp can be a noun or a verb, and then warped as the adjective. Notice this or, warp, in the middle. Okay, to warp has various meanings, but most commonly we use it to mean twisted, bent out of shape, deformed. So, for example, a piece of wood, maybe when it's cut from the tree, you have a nice flat piece of wood. But over time, it twists and it's no longer straight. It becomes twisted from a combination of humidity, water, and hot and cold. You've seen a warped piece of wood. Yeah, it's almost impossible to get straight again. So, for example, the wooden door frame was warped. Yeah, it had been warped over time. The door panel was warped. Doors warp as well, wooden doors, very definitely. Now, we can also use it figuratively to mean not straight, not flat mentally, deviant, not following what is morally proper or required or what is morally right. So he has a warped mind. He has a warped concept of the difference between right and wrong. His sexuality is warped. He's a warped pervert. So, a warped, perverted mind. Twisted, not straight, not following the normal lines. Now, another meaning for warp, we use the word warp in textiles, in warp and weft. When you make a textile, normally you use a loom, a big frame, and then you attach threads to this frame going up and down. Well, it could go sideways, but most normally up and down. And then you take another thread and you weave backwards and forwards through that. These ones going down are called the warp, and the one weaving this way is called the weft. Okay, so they're the frames that form the basis of a piece of textile. Yeah, if you've ever tried to weave something, first you need a warp, and then you start to weave through the warp, and that's the idea. From this meaning, we can also use, it's unusual, but we can use warp to mean the foundation, the basis of something, the basis on which something is made. So, tourism is the warp of our local economy. Cooperation should be the warp of any group. Yeah, well, maybe our society is warped on making more and more money. Yeah, maybe money is the warp of our society. Money and shopping centres. Oh my God. But it's probably true. So, finally, we have one other meaning of to warp. This is pretty unusual. This is to maneuver a ship or a boat by tying a rope or something fixed to a fixed point and then using the engines to maneuver it. So you tie a rope, and like this you can create sideways movements or twisting movements, which for a ship can be quite difficult. So they warped the boat round the corner, and that would work. So let's see. Warp, twisted, yeah, not straight. For example, a time warp. You've all probably seen Star Trek, and Captain Kirk says, "Warp 7." Well, I think the idea is they are warping, twisting time, or twisting the fabric of the universe. They are twisting space. So that's your time warp, or a warped piece of wood. Then somebody can be warped mentally. That is a warped idea. You have a totally warped sense of humour. And then when making textiles, the warp and weft. Yeah? So the warp, the vertical base textiles that you set up to start with. And then this boat one, pretty unusual. Okay, so now we come to the formality. I'd give warp a 5 in formality. I think you can use this just about anywhere. It's probably a good word to use. As foundation, maybe it sounds a little bit formal. People might not know that one. And I mean native speakers, but it's a good word to use. Notice as well, to warp is a regular verb. The wood warped, the wood has warped. And then as to the origin, well, we have an Old English word warp or warp, talking about the warp of textiles. Proto-Germanic warper, again the warp of a textile, and Proto-Indo-European verb meaning to twist or to bend. So warp, to disfigure, to distort mentally. And the threads of a piece of textile, or the base or the foundation of something. So there you go. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Warp.